if you want to use any JavaScript in the Salesforce, let me open the developer console first. So if you want to open work with the JavaScript, we have to define script here. So whatever the JavaScript that you want to write, you have to write within the script. Now, let me take in this way. I am creating a statement about the script. Apex output label. Within the script, I am giving some information. I'm giving as hello. I'm giving here another script component apex output label. Password. I am just creating a line here where I created enter name, alert, enter password. Let me have a preview of this page. When you open the preview of this page, see here, enter name we are getting here. Then statement number 2, hello it is getting. Then it is coming to the statement number 3, which means script is executing the sequence order. Script is executing in the sequence order. Now we are not invoking the script. Script is getting executed in the sequence order. Now I don't want the script to be executed by itself. I want to invoke the script based on my requirement, based on the event. Whenever there is an event that is occurring, let us say on click, on blur, on focus, on change. Whenever the event occurs, I want to invoke the script. In that case, I have to define the script in the function. So let me give you here. I have to define a JavaScript function. So when you want to define a JavaScript function, I have to give it in the form of function name. So my function name is I am giving as show here. Right. I have defined a script here. Now alert is script. So when you define the functionality in a function, this function will be called whenever an event occurs. So let us say I have created this. Let me have the view of this page again. So when you look at this page, look at the part. Enter username, enter the name, enter password. So the script is not called here. So when you want to call the script, we have to invoke it with an event. So I am creating here apex form apex command button. When you click on a button, event on blur, on click, on complete, on double click. So all these are events. Now I am giving here on click. So let me have a preview of this page now. We had a button. When you click on the button, this is a script. So the script is called when an event occurs. Script is called when an event occurs. So if you want to use the JavaScript in the Visualforce page, the functionality what you want to use, put them into a function and invoke that function whenever an event occurs here. Any query as of now? Any query? Fine.
Satish, like sorry to interrupt. like as I joined a bit late.
Now
So just I wanted to know. Hello.
No, I didn't get you, Sindhu. You are asking. So let me give you. So when you want to use the JavaScript, whatever the script that you want to write, you have to put it within the components called script components. In between these, we have to use the script, whatever the logic. Write whatever the logic that you want. Now, if I am creating some logic here in the script, let me give you Visualforce page. Now, I have created here Apex line 1. Then I am writing a script here. I am writing here. Right. Now, here I am writing here something like alert. A pop-up box will be moved. This is a pop-up box. Now, when you run this page, it will execute in the top-down order, which means line number 1 will be executed. Immediately, whatever that you written in the script is called. Immediately, whatever the output label is there, that is called. So, it is going to execute in the top-down approach. So, let me give line number 1, show this, okay, line number 2. So, the script is also executing in the top-down approach. Whatever the script that you have written, it is also executed along with the components what we have given in the page. But now I have a requirement. Where I don't want to run the script along with the Visualforce components, but I want to run the script whenever an event occurs. The moment I say an event occurs, event is like clicking a button, changing the data in the input fields, on click, on double click, right? Moving the mouse on it, moving the mouse out of it, key press, all this type of events, right? So for that, first we have to define a functions. So when you want to define a functions in the JavaScript, syntax will be something like this: function name, parameters. You have to define function name, parameters. Now, when you define something as a function, it will not be invoked by itself. It should be called from the event. Whenever an event occurs in the page, we can invoke that function. So let me give you function show. Now I am writing here test. Now we are trying to invoke this by handling an event. So let me give you here. I have given here Apex text on change. Whenever the data in the input text is changing, I am invoking show. So I am saying whenever the data in the input text is changing, I am invoking a method called show. So let me have a preview of this. Go to the page. We had Satish. Now as the data is changed, we are getting this is a text. Let me make data is changed, we are getting a text. So this script is called whenever there is an event called on change in the input text box. So we are trying to invoke the script when data in the text box is changing. Now I have a requirement where whatever the data that you are entering in the input text box that I want to read and move the data to the JavaScript. So whatever the value that you are entering the input text box that I want to read. So if you want to read the data that is entered in the Visualforce component, it should be like this. Document dot get element by ID. Now here we have a global component. We have a global component called component dot. Now whichever the component that you are trying to refer, that component ID I have to use it. So I am using here ID equal to FM and ID equal to right. Now if I want to refer to the input text, the component ID is name. The component ID of form is FM. So if you want to refer to the component, we have to give the ID of the component. So it is FM dot name. So when you give it, it is going to go to the component where FM within the form, whosoever the component ID is name, it is going to refer to the name. So let me give an idea here. So I am going to use something in the format. Let us say I kept this form here. Okay. Let me build a new example. Now, right. I have created a component here. So I had ID equal to right. Now let us see. I am writing the script. In the script, I am writing a function. Now, in the script, I am trying to read the data that you entered in the input text whose ID is name. If the script and input text both are at the same level, Apex input text is a child of form, script is also direct child of form. If the script and the component whose ID we are referring, if the script and the component whose ID we are referring, if both are at the same level, then we can refer it in this way. Where means variable. In the JavaScript, any type of variable can be stored in where. We don't have separate integer, decimal, number like this type of data types. Any type of data type, any type of field can be stored in where. Where stands for variable. In the where, we can store number, string, decimal, currency, whatever it is. So it's a common variable. Where my name equal to document dot get element by ID dot. Now we are trying to refer to the component. So when you want to refer to the component, you have to give it dollar component dot name. Let me give alert. Now I want to say This JavaScript function should be called whenever there is a change. On change. So let us see this. So whenever the data in the input text is changed, it is calling a show. When you call a show, it is reading the data from the component whose ID is name. Refer to the component whose ID is name. We are directly giving the name value because the script and input text both are at the same level. Now I have given Satish is printing the value on the top. Is that was clear? Any queries on this? Okay. Now let me put it in this way. Now we got Apex page block. In the page block, ID equal to so what happened? Now we have got one more input text here with ID called age. Now script and this input text both are not at the same level. Script and input text both are not at the same level. In case if both are not at the same level, we have to give the path of that component. Let us say my age equal to document dot get element by ID component dot I have to give it as component dot pv dot age. As the page block is at the same level of script. Page block is at the same level of script, so directly start with the pv dot age. Now I want to display name Now let me give you this. Okay, I have to make some name Sham. So you're getting Shaman. So if you want to refer to the component which is not directly at the same level of the child, the same level of the script, then we have to give the complete path of the element. This is one way. So let us say we can also refer to this component in different way. Let us say I am having here function demo. We have that a equal to document dot element by ID. Here I can use this other format. In case we are not comfortable with the component, then give complete path pg dot fm colon. You are referring to name. So pg fm, in that we have a name component. Similarly, let us say b equal to document dot get element by id dot value. So in this we have, I want to refer to the page block component. pg in the fm you have page block, the page block you are referring to age. So in case if you are not comfortable with this, you can follow this structure. In the page we have a form, in the form we have a page block, in the page block we have input text. Refer with this. Now I want to invoke it on change. Let me have a preview of this. We have Shamadra. So these are the two ways of referring to this component. These are two ways of referring to this component. So either I can refer in this way or I can refer in this way. Any queries on this? Referring to the components. Okay. Then let me give another example. I'm giving another example here. So here I want to, till now I have read the values. Now what I want to do is, I want to read the values and display those values in another component. As of now, we are reading the values from a component. Now what I want to do is, read the value from a component and display these values in another component. So let me give you here. Okay. Now in this case, I'm giving the ID for everything. Okay. Now I have component here. Now whatever the value that I entered in that component, I want to display here. Right. Now here I am writing a JavaScript. I'm referring with dollar component dot fm dot b dot bs. I'm reading this value. Once I read this value, I'm setting this value to document here. I would give. Now I'm setting this value in different format now. PG. Both I can use. Just for practice, I'm just using both the things. Page block section 2. We are setting the value. Similarly, for output components, we are setting any output components here. Dot inner HTML. If you are trying to use the output components, for that you cannot use value, you have to use inner HTML. Now, this function should be called on a button click. Now I'm giving on click show. Let's have a preview of this. Now look at the point. When you say on click, they will perform. Once that is performed, they are losing. See, once the function is completed, they are losing. So what I have to do is, instead of on click, if I give on complete, when you say on complete, once you click on the button, once the operation is completed, then it is going to invoke. Once the operation is completed, then it is going to invoke. Okay. Once the operation is completed, then it is going to invoke on complete. See here, we have the one. Now it is not lost. So when you say on complete, on click, let me give you two functions now. One minute. Just give me 1 minute. Let me say demo. Now invoking this. So when you are clicking it on click, we are calling it demo. Once it is completed, we are calling it show. Now let me go for the preview of the page. Now I am clicking on it. When you click, this function is called. Once this function is completed, then it is going to call on complete. On click, on complete. Once you click on anything, once the operation is completed, on change. Once it is completed, what should happen? So on complete means once the event which you called is completed, whatever the action that you want to implement, that will be giving here. So this is how we are referring to the component. Any queries about this? Any queries on this? Good. So let me go to the next example. I want to refer to the data from an object and use input secret. How to use the input secret values from the JavaScript? Now I am using here standard controller account. Input hidden value equal to account dot name I am writing here apex script. Now let me read the value what you entered here. Now I want to read the value. When you want to read the value here, where get element by ID component dot. Now we are referring to one. This when you say input component, this is a input hidden. This is input hidden. It will not be shown on the page, but we can use that value within the page. So for this, let me get a record. Okay, let me have a preview of this. Let me go to the account page. Take when I said input hidden, the value is not displayed here. We are not able to see that value, but the value is existing on the page. The value is there in the page, but it's not displayed. When you click on this page says look at the page. We got the record. Now the record is not visible to you because you have written. The record is not visible to you because you have written input hidden. When you say input hidden, the value is not going to be displayed on the page, but the value is existing on the page. You can use for internal purpose in the page for simple calculations, for logic calculations, and perform the operations. So let me say, any query on this? We are just trying to use the input secret with the JavaScript. Right. So what I want you to is, I will just go through the programs what I have done, refer to these programs, and just complete these examples whatever that I have done. So tomorrow I am going to discuss about the CSS implementation and jQuery implementation. That will be the topic for tomorrow. Just refer to the scripting whatever that I have used and complete the tasks. Any queries?